Hi, everyone. I'm Carly.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Away She Goes, a podcast from girls who travel.
Each episode will help you feed your wanderlust with travel tips, stories, inspiration, and more. Away she goes. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Away She Goes. Today we'll be talking about a destination, which is, well, it's not really one destination, but it is definitely a kind of trip that for many is a once in a lifetime. We're talking African safari, because Carli recently went on a trip with Girls Who Travel, and now she's here to tell us all about it.
I did. I'm very excited. So yes, as Sophia said, we did our third Girls Who Travel trip in October of 2024. We went on an African safari. There were 14 of us. We started in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, and we worked our way overland through Botswana and into Namibia, where we ended, and we did all sorts of sightseeing and animal experiences and safari drives and all of that kind of thing along the way. So I'm going to tell you all about it. And at the end of the episode, I'm going to tell you how you can join Girls Who Travel group trips in the future, because this is the third one I've done, and they really are once in a lifetime experiences.
Nice. So you started your trip in Zimbabwe, from what I heard.
Yes.
Of which the capital is Harare. Not sure if I probably butchered that.
No, you actually did it perfectly.
Okay, nice.
For real, that was awesome.
Nice. With a population of 16.67 million.
Yeah, so we started in Zimbabwe. Our trip started in the town of Victoria Falls. So we did not go to Harare, the capital. And a lot of us actually got there a few days early, because the way that the trip with G Adventures itself was structured was everybody kind of meets in Victoria Falls, and then the next morning we wake up and we immediately leave and go into Botswana. So a lot of us wanted to see Victoria Falls and do a few things in the town of Victoria Falls. So pretty much all of our group got in a few days early. So all of these things that we did were not part of our G Adventures trip. It was kind of stuff that we had all planned on the side to do ourselves. So the main thing, obviously, on a safari is that you want to see animals on a safari trip. So we found a couple of sanctuaries that a lot of us went to. We found one for lions and one for elephants. So the lion one was for white lions. So most lions are kind of a golden brown color, but sometimes due to recessive genes, some are born looking very white. They're not albino, but they just look a lot lighter than like a normal lion would. And they're rejected by their prides because they're seen as being weak. So often they'll die on their own because they can't survive. They're a pack animal. They don't survive. So the sanctuary that we were in takes in the white lions and raises them so that they're safe. They kind of form their own pride with each other. So we got to go see those. And then we got to see an elephant sanctuary as well. So the elephants that we saw, it was really interesting. The older ones were not able to have their own children. So what would happen was, when young baby elephants had been kind of also rejected or left behind by their groups, this place would take them in, and the older elephants that they had would kind of take on that parent role and raise them as like adopted children. So it was really cool just to see how they were working to conserve the species, especially with elephants, protecting them from poachers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's something really important you need to take into consideration if you're booking your own trip, to make sure you're going to a sanctuary that is actually a sanctuary, and that is not just a different version of Tiger King in another
a petting zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's not what you want. You want something that's like, hearing this, like, okay, they can't survive in the wild, makes sense, because otherwise it's very unethical to like strip wild animals from the wild and put them in a sanctuary, which then it's just like a zoo. You want a sanctuary that actually helps the animals, somewhere where they're like rehabilitating, rewilding if that's possible, or keeping them in something that's close to the natural environment, so that they can live their life there if they're not able to live in the wild.
Exactly. Yep. And we did a lot of research on these places, and it's a lot of too, you can kind of tell when you're there how the people treat the animals, and you can tell too how the animals interact with the handlers and the guides that are there. If they're afraid, if they're shying away from them, it kind of clues you in that it's not a good place. But this was not the case at all. Like, these animals very clearly were very comfortable around the people that we were with. And it was clear too, both with the white elephants, or the white elephants, the white lions, and with the white elephant as a Christmas gift exchange thing that we do here. It's like Secret Santa. Anyway, the white lions and the baby elephants and the elephants that couldn't have their own children, it was very clear that they were not going to be able to thrive in the wild or be successful in the wild. So the system that was kind of set up for them in these sanctuaries was more beneficial to them.
And one dead giveaway is always when you can see elephants on chains, or they're advertising riding an elephant or bathing with an elephant or something. Yep. That is always a dead giveaway, that it's not for the animal, it's for the tourist.
Correct. Yep. And that was this place, absolutely, like, no riding the elephants, no bathing. It was just kind of, we actually they were out. The elephants were not enclosed at all in any kind of fence, cage, anything like that. We actually took safari vehicles out to where they were and just kind of stood with them and kind of walked with them just as they went about doing their own thing.
Nice. So what else did you do in Victoria, or in Victoria? Victoria Falls, right? Yeah, so in Victoria Falls, obviously we went to the waterfall.
So it's kind of like Niagara Falls in the US, where on the Zimbabwe side you're looking at it, and on the Zambia side you're on the top of it looking over at it. So a lot of people went to Victoria Falls National Park and kind of got like that panoramic view of the falls. A few people, I didn't do this, a few people in our group actually went after dark on a moonbow tour. So because the water is falling and the moon, they actually had a full, I think they were like one day after the full moon too, so they had a really good timing. They got to see a moonbow, which is a rainbow, but instead of the sunlight reflecting on the water, it's the moonlight reflecting on the water. So a lot of people did that and had a lot of fun. They got a really good view from the pictures I saw. We went to a place called the Lookout Cafe, which is very famous, and it overlooks the Zambezi River, which is the border between the two countries. And you can see like the bridge that connects Zambia and Zimbabwe. You could see like the people zip lining and bungee jumping and stuff, which are activities some people did. Nobody went. Actually, yes, I'm lying. Somebody in our group did go bungee jumping. Several of them went zip lining. Yep. Yeah, I was too. I'm like, no.
No. I would have been right there with you.
Yeah, I'll sit and look at you doing it while I eat my hamburger at this cafe, but like, I'm not. that's not happening. And then another really fun thing we did was we went to the Boma dinner and drum show. So it was a cultural experience. I would compare it, because I've been to a luau. I would compare it to a luau, but rather than it being Polynesian, obviously it was African. So there were
like a very cultural dinner experience.
Yep. There was all sorts of food. We were in a big building, and they had a huge like open grill fire pit where they were cooking all sorts of meats. There was a buffet of everything else. And then there was performances. There were people in traditional outfits performing song and dance, and there were drums. And at one point it was really cool. They brought out little drums for everybody, and they were like teaching us how to play the drums, and we could all like play along. So nice. It was about 3 hours. It was very interactive. It was very fun.
Oh, that's nice. That sounds really cool, because as nice as it is to just have a dinner with a show, kind of, it's much nicer to like get to experience the culture firsthand. Be like, well, let me try my hand at keeping the beat.
Let me play the drums. No, yeah. It was a lot of fun. So from there, we did a quick day trip into Zambia, because they're right on the border with each other. Yeah. So we only were in Zambia for a few hours and then came back to Zimbabwe. But yeah, our next stop was Zambia.
Of which the capital is Lusaka, and the population is just over 21 million.
Yeah. So the one main thing that we all did in Zambia is we went to Devil's Pool. So like I said earlier, Victoria Falls is visible kind of in a panoramic view from the Zimbabwe side. From the Zambia side, you're on the top of the falls overlooking it falling down, and you're looking across into Zimbabwe. So there is a very unique area right on the top of the falls called Devil's Pool, where during the dry season, you can't go during the wet season because you wouldn't come back.
Away.
Yeah, you would not come back. It's a naturally forming pool of water right at the top of the waterfall, and there's maybe 3 or 4 feet of like a rock shelf where you can, so it buffers you from going over. You can get up on the rock shelf, and we all did. So we all spent a few hours up at Devil's Pool. We were swimming in it. We all had a chance to like pose for pictures. Like we all have pictures of us like hanging over the edge of the falls, which are about 300 feet high.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yep. It was really jarring. So like I was at one point I was on my stomach on the rock. And I was kind of like, like peering over the edge, and the guy's like holding onto my ankles. He's like, you can scoot forward a little more. I turned around. I said, what are you going to do if I go over that? You are not going to be able to hold me up if I start to go over the edge of this. So like when you look over and you actually see the bottom 300 feet down, you're like, oh, wow. Like I'm really high up. But
oh God, no.
For a lot of us though, it was like, for me, it was one of my favorite things I did the entire trip. Like It was, we all, again, this was something we all decided that we were going to do before the G Adventures tour, because we all were like, we're not going to go all the way to Victoria Falls and not see the falls. And I'm like, I actually discovered this activity. I was like, what better way to see the falls than be on top of them? So I had discovered this activity and then sent it to the group and said, hey, I'm going to do this if anybody wants to join me, thinking I would maybe get like a handful. The entire group was all like, we're going to do this too. So we all basically, I felt bad. There was one person on this excursion that wasn't in our group, but she became an honorary Girls Who Travel member, because we actually bumped into her at dinner that night too. It was really funny. We all went to like a dinner and she was there and we were like, hey, like, but she became an honorary Girls Who Travel member that day.
Nice. So then after that, the trip properly started, right?
Correct. Yep. It started in Zimbabwe. We spent one more night in Zimbabwe and then we just basically had dinner. And then the next day we headed into Botswana.
Of which the capital is Gaborone, with the population of 2.6 million.
Yep.
I'm just here for the facts.
You hear, it's okay. It's okay. When we do your destination trips, it's the same. I'm just here. So Botswana really was the meat and potatoes of our trip. Botswana was where we did pretty much all of the safari activities. So the first thing we did was a sunset cruise down the Chobe River. So we're on a boat.
Ooh.
And we saw everything. We saw crocodiles, we saw the buffalo, we saw hippos, we saw elephants, we saw giraffes, we saw vultures, we saw, what else did we see? Some people I think saw rhinos in a distance. I did not see them. But we spent, oh my God, we were probably on the boat for 3 or 4 hours, just kind of cruising all down the river. Our guides were really, really good about getting us really close to the animals and getting us really good views of them. So we spent a good 3 or 4 hours just looking at all these different kind of animals in their natural habitats, which was stunning. The next morning we did a safari drive. So same kind of thing, except we were like on land in those like 4x4s that you kind of stereotypically see. Same thing. We saw baboons, we saw zebras, we saw giraffes. So we did see lions. We saw like a pride of lions. We saw lion cubs. There was a lion at one point, a young male walked right in front of our vehicle. He was maybe like 10 feet from me at one point, and I was like, oh, he didn't pay me any attention, but he just walked right by.
I have one dumb question. Were you
sure,
in like how open was the 4x4? Because I've seen all those videos of like a lion climbing through the damn thing, and I would have lost my fucking mind.
So yeah, they can. They're very open. They're probably exactly what you're picturing, like a kind of like a hard top roof, and then open all around like the sides. We actually asked the guy, because we weren't the only vehicle there. Our group was in 2 vehicles, and then there were other safari vehicles, and we asked him like, why don't like the lions specifically, why don't the lions attack us? Why are they not afraid? Why are they, and he explained to us that they, for whatever reason, they see the safari vehicle as like one thing. They don't see, oh, there's 10 people sitting in it. They just see, oh, it's one thing. So they don't feel threatened because they see, oh, there's 2 things over there, not, oh, there's 20 people staring at me.
Nice.
If we all were to get out of the vehicle, obviously, that would be a different story. But for whatever reason, they tend to not feel threatened because they can only perceive it as like one object. which
That's
I
so
thought was
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
Especially because what I learned from my moose safari, very different animal, also slightly dangerous, is
I've never seen a moose before. They are very dangerous
yeah,
though.
I didn't see one either. That's why I had to do the stupid safari in the first place. Um, I was like, well, I spent this much time in Sweden or Norway, like I have to see one, and like
Right, right.
never did I see one, so I went on the safari, and they told us we can't open the windows of the bus that we were in, like we were in like a small bus kind of,
Mm-hmm.
because when the moose smell us, and they can smell really well, they run away.
Mm-hmm.
And story for another episode as well. I was on a Sweden trip recently with a friend, and we saw something we think is a moose. It might have been a deer. We're not sure.
How
So
big was it?
it was quite big, but like it
Moose.
was quite far away as well. So
Okay.
it could be either, because we do like they do get big deer as well up there. And we opened the window because like to get a better view, but we couldn't. Like it was dark, so it was really hard to see. But we opened the window. You could have counted to 10 and the moose was gone. So
Yeah, they are very dangerous. A lot of people don't know that about hippos too. Hippos are
yes.
extremely aggressive, extremely dangerous.
So
We saw
cute,
lots of them.
but so deadly.
I have a video somewhere from what was it? I think the boat cruise. We could kind of see them. We were kind of looking at them, and there were two of them, and they were kind of coming at each other, and they met in the middle, and they opened their mouths, and they started fighting, and we were like, we all were like, oh my God.
That's some scary shit.
Yeah, so our next activity, actually, a lot of people were understandably very nervous about. So we spent a night camping in the Okavango Delta in Botswana. And to get to our campsite, we had to take makoros, which are canoes, through the Delta for like an hour and a half. Guess who lives in the Delta?
Hippos.
The hippos. So during the day, they're not as active. We could still see them. It's at night where they're really dangerous. So it was kind of no. So we could see them though, and it's very different seeing them in like a big boat with an engine, versus being in a canoe where you're like this, like
you're like 5 centimeters above the waterline, kind of. You're like eye to eye with them. Yeah,
and you can see it, 10 feet away, and you're like, this thing could snap me in half like a toothpick right now. So they left us alone. But it was pretty common knowledge that like once we got to camp, like you can't go back up the Delta at night because that's what you can't get through them. Like during the day, they'll pretty much leave you alone. At night, they won't. So we got to our campsite and it was hot. It was the hottest I have ever experienced in my life. It was, and I'm not exaggerating, I looked at my phone, it was 105 degrees Fahrenheit. And Sophia's doing a conversion, I can tell. It's hot. It's like unbearable.
It's like 48 degrees.
Yeah. Which is it was unbearable. So we basically got to the camp. We had guides with us that like set up our tents and everything, and we all basically just sat in the shade. And even then it was still unbearable. But like there was really nothing else for us to do because like, it was so hot. A few people went on a walk and I was like, y'all are crazy. Actually, most people went on a walk. There were 3 of us who stayed back because we were just like, it's too hot.
Yeah.
When everybody came back, we jokingly, the 3 of us that were there, so it was myself, and then 2 ladies, Linda and Lisa. Linda was the mother, Lisa was the daughter. We jokingly were like, because we had stayed at like hotels and like lodges and stuff like that, and they would welcome you with like cold towels and like a drink and stuff like that. So we planned when everybody came back. Linda's a music teacher, so Linda had like a really cool like wooden flute with her. So Linda was playing music, and I had bug spray, and Lisa had wet ones, like baby wipes.
Yeah.
So when everybody came back, I was like, "Hi, we'd like to offer you some complimentary bug spray." And then Lisa was like, "Cold towel," but it wasn't a cold towel; it was a wet wipe. But everybody thought it was really funny because I was like, because we were like, we should prank them or something. I'm like, well, we don't have a lot of toilet paper, so I don't want to like TP the tents or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, we're not gonna prank them, but we're gonna like pretend that we're welcoming them back to like a luxury hotel.
No, that's a good joke. That's like top notch. Like,
thank you.
No one's like embarrassed or scared at the situation. It's just good fun. Like, I love it.
Yeah, we had because Linda was playing her flute, and then the idea popped into my head. I was like, we should like make a welcoming committee when they come back. Somewhere there's a video. I'll find it. Somebody has it. But yeah, and then at night we once
Did
it cooled down.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, it was still not comfortable, but like it got to a point where I climbed into my sleeping bag instead of just laying on top of it.
Nice.
We had what we think we could hear hippos grunting. They make like a pretty distinct
Fun.
noise. Yep, we could hear them. And then at one point we had all, it was like 1 or so in the morning, we had all just kind of drifted off to sleep and we heard a growl. And my tent mate was my friend Nicole. She was in Vietnam with me as well. She like sat straight up and she goes, I don't think that was a hippo. And I was like, that definitely was not it. I was like, that definitely was not a hippo. So our guides the next morning, because we all woke up, like we all were like, our guides the next morning actually told us they think it was a leopard because leopards are also, we tried to see one on our safari. We couldn't, they're very elusive and they travel by themselves. Like lions travel as a pack, but leopards are very, very solitary. So because we only heard the one growl and they saw prints of one animal, they think it was a leopard because a lion would have had more with it. So that was fun.
Was the camp fenced in any way, or
no,
was it just
absolutely not.
Okay.
No, we're
cool,
just
cool.
We were just
I'm
out
so
there.
glad I didn't come because I would not have slept for a minute. I'd have like,
okay,
I'll do first watch because I'll also do second watch and third watch because I'm not sleeping anyway.
Yeah, none of us really slept all that well. So the next morning we were all like, okay, like let's go. So then we had to take the canoes back up the delta the other way. And then it was very hot. It was one of those things where like doing it, we were like, wow, this sucks. But then after we were like, okay, that was like, once you're not like hot and sweaty, when we showered that night, like when I showered that next night, though I'm not shitting you, the water was brown. It was disgusting. Like we all just had, because we had sunscreen and bug spray and the sand,
so
like
dusty and everything sticks to you.
We all just literally had like a layer of dirt on us. Yeah, it felt very good to shower that next night. We also stayed at a really cool lodge. I'm going to shout it out. There were two really. We stayed at Botswana Lodge. That one was really nice in Chobe. Highly recommend. And then we stayed at a place called Elephant Sands, which was really cool because it has a big watering hole, right? It's kind of like a lobby reception restaurant building and then little like glamping tent cabins all around in like a half circle and a big watering hole in the middle. So wild elephants come in. And like you're sitting at the lobby of the hotel and there's just like a herd of wild elephants at the watering hole. And I just sat there and watched them for like hours.
Nice.
And they actually had to turn the water off at that place overnight because the elephants would dig the pipes up. So they warned us, like, make sure you showered and done everything by 10 p.m. because from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. the water is off because the elephants would dig the pipes up from behind your cabin.
Insane.
I was like, where am I? Like, what's happening? One final really cool thing we did in Botswana, we got to go to a traditional village and visit the San people. So they are one of the traditional kind of tribes in Botswana, and they speak by clicking. They like click their tongues. So they do some vocalization, but there's a lot of like clicking and like popping. So they brought us on a little tour of their village and it was cool. We had 3 people. It was a mother and her 2 older children. One of them kind of did the whole explanation in their native language, and then the mother translated it to English after so we could kind of hear the comparison. But we got to see their village, interact with them. They were really, really cool. They took a picture with us with our Girls Who Travel banner, which was really cool. They showed us how to make a fire. So that was kind of the last thing that we did in Botswana before we moved on to Namibia. But you see, like, my Namibia section in comparison is going to be very short. Like Botswana really was like the bulk of the trip.
How long did you stay there in total?
I was there total for 2 weeks.
No, I meant in Botswana itself.
Oh, in Botswana, 5 or 6 days.
Yeah.
5 days, I think. So yeah, then we moved on to Namibia. Which
the capital is Windhoek. I'm assuming they were colonized by the Dutch. From Germans. The name of the capital, Germans. Okay, Windhoek, Germans. I would have said Dutch, but okay.
It's Germans.
With a population of 3 million.
Yeah, it's interesting. So in Windhoek specifically, there was a lot of German influence in the architecture. There was a lot of, all of the street names were all like Strasse. They were all like German names. We actually had a traveler with us who she lives in Copenhagen, but she holds like German citizenship. Her parents were from Germany. She lived there for a while. So she even was like, she's like, this is so interesting. Like they had German beers. Like there was a very, very heavy like German influence in Windhoek specifically.
Oh, and I just looked it up. Apparently, earlier it was called Windhoek in a German writing, and now it's in this more like, I would call it Dutch writing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I assumed that it was Dutch and not
Yeah.
German. That makes sense.
Yeah. So we were there for a pretty short amount of time. We got in, and we had I had 2 nights there, I think. We had a night there, and it was our farewell night. So it was the last night of our official trip. So we had a big dinner at a restaurant. Some people spent the day kind of exploring. Myself and a few other people had flights a day later than everybody else. So we all had there were 4 of us who had an extra day in Namibia. So most people, we had our farewell dinner, and then the next day, most of them flew out. 4 of us had that extra day to do some sightseeing. So we went to like, they have like a really big like craft market, which was really cool. They have like there was like a German church that was very like, it was so strange because it's like all hot and sandy, and you see this like little like cottage core German church just like plucked into the middle of like Africa. So we saw that. We saw some art, an art gallery. We saw a museum, just kind of basic sightseeing stuff. We ate at a couple of really, really good restaurants. There was one called Stellenbosch, again, very German. It was a wine bistro, and that was probably some of the best food we had the entire trip. There were 4 of us that went there for dinner, and it was like absolutely phenomenal food. So we just kind of spent that day just kind of doing basic sightseeing stuff, dinner, and then the following day most of us flew home. A couple people went out to the coast of Namibia, where you'd see like the traditional like the sand dunes that everybody sees when you talk about Namibia. So they went out west and went to the Atlantic coast, but most of us then flew home, and that was kind of how the trip wrapped up.
Nice. So do you want to tell us about the future Girls Who Travel trips?
Absolutely.
I mean, half of them are booked out already.
They are,
and by the time this will air, probably will have happened.
Yeah, so when we have one coming up to Morocco in April of 2025, this episode probably will come out after that has already happened, or maybe right when that's happening, but April of 2025, depending on when you're listening to this, there's a group of lovely ladies in Morocco with my friend Debbie, who is leading the trip. And then in July of 2025, we're doing our first ever family trip to Costa Rica. That's being hosted by our fellow GWT member, Beth Nelson. She's bringing her husband and her daughter along. So we kind of deviated from our normal, group trips and kind of expanded it to allow partners and children and spouses and all sorts of things. So that'll be really exciting to see as well.
So what is the best way for our listeners to stay informed when new trips are coming up?
Absolutely. So you'll obviously see we post in the Facebook group a lot before trips sell, to kind of lead up to it, to announce that it's happening, and then as they're selling. But all of our trips have a track record of selling out extremely fast. So sometimes by the time people see the Facebook post, they're already gone. So what I would recommend is signing up for our newsletter. We will have a description. We will have instructions how to do that in the description of the episode. That's the best way. That puts you on our email list. And that way you'll get notified via email when new trips come out. And it's kind of a more surefire way to make sure that like the algorithm doesn't mess you up and you don't miss the Facebook posts and stuff like that. So keep an eye on Facebook, but the best way definitely is to sign up for our email list.
Nice. Well, this is the perfect end to the episode. You'll hear from us soon again.
Bye.
Bye.
That's all for this episode. If you'd like more Away She Goes in your life, make sure to stop by girlswhotravel.org/podcast. That's where you can fill out a form if you're interested in being a guest on the show. You can also write to us at awayshegosgwt@gmail.com or leave us a message on our Google voicemail from any phone or computer at 1-563-503-6323. To follow our adventures, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Carli Sees the World. Carli is spelled Carli.
You can also follow me at Sophia AEZ, Sophia with a PH. Away She Goes is part of Girls Who Travel, a community dedicated to radically redefining travel to be inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. You can learn more about GWT, find travel tips and support, shop travel-themed items made by GWT members, and join our Facebook group with nearly 100,000 women all around the world at girlstotravel.org. We can't wait to connect and explore with you.
Away she goes.